Welcome to The Art of Being Unstoppable, the podcast where women from every walk of life come together to break barriers, embrace their power, and live life on their own terms. I'm your host, Vicki McDougall, and each week we explore inspiring stories, actionable strategies, and empowering conversations to help you step into your confidence, amplify your voice, and create a life without limits. No matter where you are on your journey, this is your space to grow, thrive, and become unstoppable. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. Today, I have a pretty incredible guest. This is someone that I could literally spend hours talking to. Before we press the record button, we've been talking for probably 20 minutes. We just can't stop. It's like, oh, okay, let's record because we don't want to miss any of this because what we say has been just amazing. We could just talk and talk and talk. And you know, that's what this podcast is about women being able to speak their truth, your thoughts, your feelings, and the way that, you know, your life has transformed you into being the person that you are. So welcome, Crissie. I am so happy that you are here.
Hi, Vicki. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's awesome to have you here today. You know, you are a woman that wears many hats, or should I say wears many glasses? Because when we first met, that was a thing. I'm like, oh my God, she got the coolest glasses.
Yeah, I have my
Love
little
'em.
magnetic frames.
Love them. Oh, they're great. But Crissie, you are a pretty multi-talented woman. You have your hand in a bunch of different things. You do. You smile through everything. You just seem to be so kind and caring and loving. And you draw people in.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome. And you know, and you talk about trauma and the pain of trauma and how the pain can propel you into something even better. And you still smile.
Absolutely. I refuse to be defined by my trauma. I won't do it. I won't do it.
And I love that about you. I really do. Okay, let's get everybody caught up here. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your story. How about we start there?
Okay. Well, I'm Crissie Leonard. I hail from Ohio. I am an author, speaker. I actually got to speak on a cruise boat. It was like totally exciting. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there's all kind of food here. That's so fun. And me and my best friend, we co-found a publishing company because I had been published by a traditional house and then I self-published and I wanted more than what I was offered. So I was like, hey, let's just start this publishing house. So we did, you know, we're part of a tech company. We just launched our podcast. I think we're on episode number 9. We call everything for us is under the humble heartbeat. And so for me, the humble heartbeat is Jesus is the heartbeat of humanity. And so that's why we called it Humble Heartbeat. That's what all of our stuff is. And recently we just started an entertainment division and a digital media agency. So we got our hands in all kinds of things. And, you know, I'm very, and I also am in accounting. So I'm very right and left brained. And so I do my decision making analytically, and then I do all the other stuff creatively. So it's always a ball of fun. You know, I've experienced a lot of trauma in my life, Vicki, and went through a lot of dark periods. And I just I don't want to live there anymore. I don't want to live in the dark periods. You know, one of my I don't want to say like favorite things because that sounds so corny, but is actually talking about trauma, but trying to refocus the conversations to where they are beneficial and not just a bunch of chest popping and rah rah. Hey, we talked about it. So you know, we approach it differently. We're big mental health awareness proponents. And we stay in that because I feel like that is one place we do not talk enough about in society because most people don't want the stigma of being labeled as having mental health. I don't say issues. I don't say problems. I mean, everybody has it. Just a lot of people just don't talk about it. And so somebody has to. So somebody has to be the conversation starter and somebody has to be the trailblazer. And so we go there and we're like, okay, every story matters.
Yes.
Everyone's life matters.
Yes.
And, we worked a lot last year in suicide awareness.
Okay.
And, I believe both sides of the coin need to be told.
Yeah.
Those who have attempted it and have survived it, and those that are left behind, because I think people need to see both sides, and both
Yes.
sides' stories matter. And so that's a
Absolutely.
really big, important thing for us. And we've talked about this before. I'm a huge proponent of having productive conversations about trauma and how it
Mhm.
affects us, because it affects your daily life. Most people just don't
Abs
recognize it.
You're so right, and to say that and the both sides, like, I mean, you know, we get caught up in the listening to the one, like, the one side of something, the one way people think, or the one thing that's the common denominator, but there is so many sides to things, and opening up that can to really show each and every kind of proponent of it and what it does, maybe will
Mhm.
make someone see something in a different way than they ever did before. And it's not about who's right, who's wrong, what you believe in is your way and my way. There isn't. There's this, and I always like to say it like there's a gap in between all of us, but we can fill that gap with understanding and love and not judgment and not fear and all of those negativity. It just seems to be it. That's what everybody is looking for, is that
Mhm.
drama, that, like, let's stir it up. Why stir it up? Why not
Right.
just talk about it coming from a place of love and hope and positivity? And I think that that's what you do. I mean, for
Yeah.
heaven's sakes, you have a comic book, you're an author, you have a comic book, and it's based on trauma.
It is. I think really part of the issue is, as a society, we're just conditioned for things. We bring a lot of generational baggage with us.
Yeah.
I always liken it to, if you think back to the fables of generations and generations, some of them started out as like three lines, right? And by the time they reach your generation, they're like a trilogy, Lord of the Rings style story, right? Everybody adds and
Mhm.
and you have no idea what the truth is. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know what the truth is. And
No,
it's the same for people. You know the truth that we tell you.
that's
You
right.
get as much as we allow you to receive, right? And so we're always in control of the narrative that's going out. And I think sometimes that's not a good thing, because I learned, as someone who contemplated suicide to leave a toxic relationship, I understood, after a lot of counseling, a lot, mainstream and Christian spiritually based counseling, what I finally understood was suicidal tendencies is a trauma response. We have
Okay.
not dealt with all the trauma, and it has pushed us here because we have the root of the trauma and more trauma and more trauma and more trauma. It's like a seven-layer salad, right? The real big salads that you get.
Yeah.
And people think I'm just going to take off the top layer and I'm good, but really you got to get all the way down to the bottom layer where, all the crunchy stuff is. And
Yeah.
you got to deal with that, because all the trauma on top of it is based off of that bottom one.
That's
And
right.
it
Yeah.
took a long time for me to figure that out. I Mine was in my youth, and I just kept making decisions, and I was really young. I was 9, and my parents divorced, and my dad had left, and I didn't know at the time. Back in the 70s and 80s, they didn't call it abandonment. And they just
No.
called you from a broken home, right?
Yeah.
You're from a
Yeah.
broken home. Okay. Well, yeah, my home was broken. But you don't
Yeah.
realize that you're actually broken, and I think that's quite funny. I think the broken home is you're actually the broken portion. You just don't know it, especially if it happened to you in your youth. And so, I just went through, because I never really addressed that. I didn't really understand it. My father was a wonderful man. I don't want to say he was a terrible man. He was a wonderful man. He would give you the shirt off of his back. He was a multiple tour Vietnam veteran, and he had a lot of demons that he came home with. And it took me lots and lots of years, Vicky, but I understood that when it was my turn, he just didn't have the capacity to be a father for me. And we reconciled many, 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 many years later. And I had a good relationship with him before he passed away. And so I have that kind of salve to my heart from all of that. But
Mhm.
I I was looking for love from a man to feel the father's love that I didn't really
Yeah.
get. And
Yeah.
you know, you know how that story goes. And
Yeah.
then I didn't deal with that trauma. And then, I was sexually assaulted by a man. And so we have that trauma on top of that. And I joke around and tell people like it's hard for traumatized people to understand love,
Hmm.
especially if you are a female and your trauma was induced by men.
Right.
Like I often joke
Okay.
and tell people I don't really understand that concept because a lot of the pain and trauma in my life was at the hands of men. And so it took me a really long time to like put some separation there. Really, it wasn't me, it was God, because what he did was put three wonderful men in my life that were very understanding and were able to put some salve on those wounds. And, they just helped me see because you can form a lot of opinions in your mind of like, I'm just signing off men forever. And,
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever supposed to do that. I love being single. When people say, what is your biggest failure? I said, marriage. I've been married and divorced twice, Vicki. And I was like a 5-year plan because when I got married, I was divorced within 5 years with both of them. Now they were
Were
long
you?
term relationships. Yeah, one was 15 years, one was 8 years. But at the 5-year mark in the marriage, it was like, everything fell apart. So I was like, I'm good. I like being single. I like the independence. I don't speak to the first one. Uh, no, ma'am. But the second one, we are still actually really good friends. And so we were better friends than we were spouses. And
Yeah.
I laughed because I said, sometimes the sense of humor is crazy. I always said I would never be friends with an ex husband. And God's like, yeah, maybe you might
Maybe
need
you
to
will.
rethink that. And so
Yeah.
my second one, wonderful man, we were better friends and we recognized that. So we did that. But all of that to say, like I didn't understand I was trauma building as I was going
Oh.
until,
Well, how do you
I
know
hit that
something that you
point.
don't know? Right. You don't know what you
Right.
don't know.
Right. You have no idea until someone sits down and be like, have you ever addressed your trauma? And I'm like, what? No.
Right.
You're like, no, I'm an
Mhm.
overachiever. I didn't address any of that stuff. I just go about my business and do the next thing on the list. And
Yeah.
and so,
Yeah.
it takes you all these years to get it, all this trauma, and then you have to unpack it in so little time, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise it will rule all of your decisions. Because
Yeah.
what I found myself in my first marriage was the person I was married to did to me exactly what had happened to my mother. And I was like, oh boy. But you don't know that either. I met
Right.
him when I was 15, divorced at 30. Half my life was spent with that person. And
Yeah.
you don't know, you grow up in that and that's what you know. The old saying, you go to what you know, right?
Yep.
And so
Yep.
you don't
You do.
recognize it's trauma. But here's what I love about things. When you find people that are comfortable enough truly speaking about their trauma and not just like, we talked about this before, when people speak about their trauma, I liken it to being out in a boat together in the ocean. And as you're unpacking your trauma, we're rowing ourselves back to the shore. And then we get so close to where you talk about, well, this is how I got out of my trauma. This is what worked for me. And you jump out of the boat and leave the rest of us there. Because most people don't want to talk about that part. So I
Right.
call that the
Yeah.
messy part of trauma. People don't want to talk about that. We think the trauma is actually the mess, but it's not.
No.
It's what
No.
happened to you to create the mess.
Mhm.
The mess of
Yeah.
how you get through it will create your message. And so people don't do that part. And I'm always like, don't leave us out here in the ocean. We want
Yeah.
to come with you to the shore because we might not be able to swim really well. And so that,
Yeah.
that's, yes, one thing I said, like, if we have people really hone in to what it is, this is what I talked about, the power of the pain propelling you
Yeah.
to your purpose. So, pain is a very powerful motivator.
Mhm.
But when you can pull all that, not just the emotions, because emotions are fickle, they have no place in your decision making, but just how strong you can feel the emotions, right? If you
Yeah.
can pull that kind of strength out of it, to really hone in on your message and decide this is what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to raise awareness. I'm going to step to the front and be like, I'm going to change the way conversations are done, how we talk about things. Then now you're propelling yourself into your purpose. That's how my comic book come about. It's
And
crazy.
that's, you know, Crissie, when you say this, it sounds like, and what I had said in the very beginning of this conversation was, you say it with a smile because you look at it like this has happened. Yes, it has. And you're not diminishing
Mhm.
what happened. You're not making it small, but you're not remaining small. That's the difference.
No.
You unpacked it and now, okay, what's my purpose? That messy middle between the trauma
Mm,
and the healing is the messy middle. And that messy middle has a message, like you said. And
absolutely.
that message comes from your soul, your purpose, your
Hmm.
heart, not your emotions, not your feelings, not your anger, not all of these things on the outside. It comes from that place of connection to yourself and being
Absolutely.
honest with yourself and owning our part in the process because it isn't always over there with everyone else. It's in here with
Right.
us too.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying for 1 minute it was the trauma, the original trauma of your dad leaving. It wasn't your fault. It was not your
Oh,
fault.
no.
But you then made a decision at that time in your life, right? That's when you made that choice. And
Right.
then the trauma, like you said,
Hmm.
it's just like that 7-layer salad. It just keeps adding on
Yep.
top.
It's funny because that led me like, I was a huge reader and I just immersed myself in the books when that happened, because books
Yep.
can take you away from your problems, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
so
they
I
can.
just immersed myself in and really I love writing. I love reading, and that's always stuck with me. But I said back then, like one day I want to write stories that can just take people away or make them think about things differently. And so I didn't recognize for a really long time that the seed was being planted back then of
Yeah,
okay, this is where you're going to end up. You're going to end up in this
yeah,
realm. And but there's a lot of pruning. We talked about this before we got on. Sometimes you
yes,
lay the seeds and sometimes you are the one that waters the seeds. But selfishly, as humans, we want to do both, right? We want to plant the seed, then we want to
yeah,
see it flourish because we can be like, oh my gosh, I did that. But
that's right.
God's like, yeah, yeah, that's not the response you're supposed to have.
Nope,
That's not
nope,
what it's about. Because now
no,
it's about you and your ego's in the way. And,
that's right. And the
it's
ego
like,
can't
no.
be in the way. You just can't. You have
Oh
to
my
remove the
gosh,
ego.
no.
The ego
Let me
has
tell
not
you,
no place.
this is a funny story. I talk about ego all the time. Our mentor said ego edging God out. And when I first wrote it took me 8 years to get my first book published, written and published. And and I thought, first draft, first time author, you're just like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. This is just awesome. It's amazing. And then
Right?
you get the feedback from editors, which is why people don't like to use editors. And it's like, whoa. And I have my own editing team and I tell them, just be brutal. I
Yeah,
may not like it. I may not have to talk to you for a couple days till I calm myself down, but please don't let me put out terrible things because now it's
no,
a respect
yeah,
thing and our respect is done after that if you let me put something terrible out. And so we worked on it and worked on it and they kept saying this is a great coffee book table, which nothing against coffee book tables. They all have their place. I did not want mine to be that. And I was like, oh my gosh, come on, guys, give me a break. And they're like, no, no, no. Well, and here's the thing, Vicki, I was caught in trauma recoil and I didn't want to go deeper into myself to pull all of that power out to really write the book that it needed to be done. And
mhm,
so I sent it to my publisher and my first time I sent it, it got rejected. Not because of that, but because I had used God in a way that you can't do in Christian publishing. Like you can't have him directly answer unless you're quoting from the Bible. And I had not done that. And so I was
okay,
like, no, this book is fantastic. It's amazing. And so we went into a 6-month battle. Like I dug in my heels. I strapped my pants on and I was like,
Yeah.
nope, not moving from here. It's like concrete has set in. I'm right here. I'm immovable. And, you know, and all the people around me were like, you got to get it together. You got to get together. And I'm like, nope, nope, nope. And deep inside, I knew it wasn't my best material, but I also knew I didn't want to go where I had to go because I'd have to deal with all this trauma.
Of
And
course.
so they come back and they said, if you don't change it, we're not publishing it. I was like, okay, well, I can look at self-publishing. And, and again, people were all around me and I didn't listen to anybody until I heard in my spirit say, if you don't do it, I'll give it to somebody else. Now, if there's anything to slap you in the face about your ego, that's one of them, right? Because I was like, no way. I got 8 years invested in this project. I'm not turning
Yes.
it over to anybody. And so I literally locked myself in a room to write. I scheduled time with my family and then I had do not disturb on my door. I always laugh like they would bring out food and be like, we'll see you tomorrow. And, I went to the quiet rooms in the library to get it done because I knew if I didn't do it, my name wouldn't be attached to it. And it was my story. It was my story to tell. And I had to do that. And then the funny thing is I sent it back. Their head of editing called and I was like, oh Lord. And she said, one or two reasons you get this phone call. It's either really good or really bad. And here's the funny thing. This is how crazy the human mind is, right? Do you know what my first reaction was?
It's really bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
And she said, no. She's like, no, ma'am. You just need some editing for the publishing side, right? But my first thought was, it's really bad. And see how the negative just sits in there waiting for the
Yep.
opportunity, right?
Yep.
And I was flabbergasted. I was like, oh my gosh. So we did all this editing and then I didn't hear anything. And I was like, okay. And then one Sunday morning before church, it was like, yeah, you should probably get on the website in my spirit, right? And I went on and I was the featured book. I didn't even know it was published. And so we went
Oh
on
my
and
gosh.
it's crazy, right? It's so crazy. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, all this. And I'm like, oh, I got to submit for all these awards and I got to do all of this. Because, it just takes over, right? It can
Yeah.
be a monster if you don't have good people advising you, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I ran that road, Vicki. I ran that road. Submitted for
So
awards and go ahead.
what? No, I was just going to say, so, you're talking about ego, and I think that ego can be the stealer of our joy. And
Oh,
right? Like you're talking
absolutely.
and it's like, I can see ego and I can see you. Like I can see you both standing there
Right.
as
Like, think of my
separate.
purple hair, but filling the whole
Yes.
screen. That's how big my ego was.
Oh,
It was, girl. Oh my gosh. It was terrible. And, it's also a destiny killer because in all of it, I didn't even stay still long enough through the process to really appreciate it that I published my first book on my first try, which is very, very rare. Most people
yeah.
don't make it on their first try. It's very small. I blew right past that like I was Haley's Comet coming to visit. I was just like, see you, bye. We're off on another trail. And so, I
No.
started submitting to awards and, I did well, but I entered like regular fiction because my first book is Christian fiction because I just wanted feedback. At least that's what I told myself. I wanted
Right.
feedback and I got it. A judge was like, well, this is really good. And then I was like, just add another layer, add another layer. Then I started to get all of these awards. And I told people like my ego could have spanned the globe a couple of times, right? And you have to be honest. You have to be honest about things that happened in your journey.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and then I was in a author group, a local author group here. Me and a group of ladies, we did, and they were doing like radio and they were doing television, and I am just like sidelined. I'm just sidelined. Like I'm not getting offers for any of that. Not doing it, but I'm still doing well on the circuit, right? The book circuit submitting
Right.
and so I kept watching them and I'm not gonna lie, boy, I was jealous. I was just like and I asked God, I said, hello, have you forgotten about me down here? Like, you told me to write this book. I finished this book. I did 8 years. I got it together, and they're on radio and they're on TV. And, I'm only, which is terrible to say, on the book circuit. And, in my spirit, I heard, I never told you to do any of that stuff. And now you're going to watch from the sidelines knowing that you should be running with those people, right? You talk about a wet towel thrown in your face. And I was like,
Mhm.
this humbling process is going to be very, very painful. And I had to watch them go. And then, I was talking to people about it. And then I just felt in my spirit, if you cannot get used to people out eclipsing you now, you can never go where I need you to go. And I didn't understand at the time because, I was still like, what in the world? I did everything I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But then funny things started happening. God really humbled me, but I was still getting the awards. And this is where trauma comes in. Cause, I had been told in the past, like, you're not going to amount to anything. No one's going to love you for you. You're not going to become anything in your life. And so, when I sat down and become really truthful, like you said, you have to be true to yourself, right?
Mhm.
I really said that while I loved getting the awards, I love red carpets. I love to dress up, get all fancy every now and then. I'm just like, normally I'm in my jeans or pajamas. But when I was truthful about it, it was really every time I stepped on a stage and got an award, and this is so terrible, Vicky. It was like flipping my middle finger at the people that told me I would never make it.
Mhm.
And that's a trauma response.
That's right.
And then I knew, girl, you got a lot of work to do. And so I went back to it. I went back into counseling and tried to, like identify the trauma. And we got it identified. And then funny things started happening. Just a random conversation. Someone needed to speak to me about a play they were doing to see if I could offer something. And I walked away with a script contract. They wrote my book for television. Um, no, God was like, all right, let's get this party started. And then I went to a conference where they taught you how to leverage your book to get into different rooms. And so we started doing that, and God has been very, very good. We got to sit and talk to a lot of people and, get into awareness that we wanted to and other
Yes.
projects. And it launched us into our publishing company. But had I not had to have the towel thrown in my face twice, like I
Mhm.
always struggle. Like, I think God has such a sense of humor. He's just like, well, get used to it because you're not going there until you get over this, right? And then the funny thing is I ended up becoming a book coach, and I have watched people surpass me. And now I'm just like, you go get it. You go get it. And
Mhm.
people are like, yeah, your
Oh,
book. And I was like, here's the thing. I don't ever write my book for money. I think that's the worst
no.
reason you can write a book because you don't have
Yep.
an impactful why. And
Mhm.
here's the best part. This is where God's sense of humor come in, right? My book has launched us into whole different arenas, and it's not a bestseller anywhere. Nowhere.
Really?
Not a bestseller. Not a bestseller.
Really? That
Not a
surprises me
bestseller.
because, I mean, it's done very well, but you
Yes.
know what I hear when you're speaking is all of the times you were told no. All of the
Mhm.
times now, we could look at this from 2 different perspectives. "I'll never be able to do this. This is terrible. I can't do this." They're always saying, "No, it's not good enough." "Well, really? I am good enough." And da 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 da,
Right.
right? You can go down that rabbit hole. Or, like you said, you're standing there and you're going, "Look at me now." But, all of those
Right.
things, like you said, we're not doing them for the right reasons then. No
Correct.
different than us communicating here today. We're not doing it to sell the book, to get a higher
No.
rating in the podcast, to we're doing it because we have a purpose and the purpose is bigger than us.
Exactly. I say all that because I laugh like, okay, God has taken all the messiness, and that's really what my platform runs off of. Like, I can be so truthful, and I tell people when they sign on with us, there's not an excuse you can give me that you can't finish your book that I haven't already tried to use. And
Yeah.
so I have the answer. I
Yep.
know
Yep.
what it
Yep.
is at each stage that will stop people from doing that. And then I can tell you on the back end, it's why the first question I ask people, why do you want to write your book?
Hmm.
Tell me why you
Yep.
want to write your book. And then I know from their answer, I'm like, okay, this is the path we're gonna go. And we get a lot of people that want to write their life stories, but they're not equipped to handle the recoil that comes from going back into their trauma. And
Yep.
and that's just something people have to be aware of when you're writing your life story. Your body is
Mhm.
going to relive all of that trauma when you're typing it or writing about it to put it
Yep.
in the book. And then you're going to publish it and people are going to be talking about it, and so I tell them you have to be able to handle that because not
Yeah.
everyone can. Not everyone
No.
can do it.
Oh, no. Judgment is a thing that people
Oh,
do
girl.
so often and cannot get over themselves. Like, and someone said to me, and this was kind of life changing for me, and I use this a lot now, and it's other people's opinions of me are none of my business. But when we put ourselves out onto a platform where we can get the backlash, like writing a book or acting in something, or even the podcast or
Mhm.
anything that we do, we're standing in our power. Other people don't have to agree with us, and that's okay. But
Sure.
that's going to happen. Some people aren't going to. Some people aren't going to like us. Some people aren't going to agree with us.
So true. So
Yeah.
very true.
Yes.
We get that with our podcast. We decided
Mhm.
to do one on mental health, and
Yeah.
you really just open the door wide and
Yeah.
expose yourself. But that's okay because I always say if you have time to focus on those things, then you're not focused on your purpose.
That's right. That's right. And if the
And
purpose
it's
is
all
aligned,
about
that's what it's about. The purpose needs to be
this
aligned.
stuff
Like,
doesn't even matter.
no, it
It doesn't
doesn't.
even matter.
Not
You
at
can get a
all.
5-star review and a 1-star review, but know that your book is not for everybody. Don't
That's right.
don't worry about those things. Just
And we're
keep
not for
asking for it to
everybody,
be. No, girl,
right?
I'm not for everybody. I tell it, I'm a lot. Like I, I don't even know if I would be my own friend if I wasn't me.
We'll see.
Because I could be a lot. Like, I could be a lot, right? I just have a big personality and I'm not for everybody. But I understand that. And that's okay. If I'm not
And
for
me too.
you, that's okay. But
That's
that
right.
doesn't mean we have to be enemies.
No,
I'm just
no,
not for you and you're not
yeah,
for me. And that's
yeah,
okay.
and that's
Doesn't mean
okay.
we can't be
That's
in the same arena,
that's good.
doing the same thing,
Yeah,
talking about the same things. We all
yeah,
just have different approaches. And
yeah.
I you agree, Vicky? I think people waste so much time worrying about that stuff.
Oh, me
I
too.
offended that one. Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. You're going to offend somebody. Somebody is
That's right.
going to be offended by something you do, say, speak,
Mhm.
talk, walk,
Yep,
wear.
yep.
It's
You know
okay.
what's really
It's
funny
okay.
when you said that? It came up for me when my kids were growing up. I remember saying, you don't always have to like me, and that's okay. Because if you like me all the time, I'm not doing my job. Because no is
Exactly.
something that you're going to hear in your life, and structure is important. And you may not like the structure that I put
Hmm.
in place. That's okay. But now my kids are adults and grown and having their own children, and they come back to me and say, "Oh, mom, thank you." Because they see such a difference, right? They see it in themselves now. And
Right.
it's like, right. And it wasn't about who's wrong and who's right. It was just the best. I did the best I could at where I was at in my life. And
That's
just
it.
respect
You
from
can.
people.
Oh my goodness. Don't get me started. Girl, we could be on here for hours. The level of
I
disrespect
know,
that
I know.
is within people. I'm just like, okay, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, right? I was born in 74, grew up in those eras. That stuff didn't happen. I mean, your parents were still able to smack you across the face and ain't nothing you can do about it. And you probably
Nope.
deserved it. And I cannot handle the level of disrespect. I'm like, okay, you don't have to like people, but you don't have to drag them through the mud either. Because here's what's going to happen somewhere down the road, you're going to be the one that gets dragged through the mud.
That's
And
right.
then guess what's going to happen? They're going to pull up all the stuff you've done,
Mhm.
and it's all going to become headline news. What if you're famous? I mean, if you're not, everybody's still going to know. It's called the Gossip Network.
That's
Um,
right. And now, I
but,
mean, like
it's
you
why.
were saying, when we grew up, there was nothing like that. There wasn't the, um, that,
Yeah.
that wasn't published on Facebook or this. Everybody knows instantly what's happening now. It's
Yeah, you
crazy.
know how they did? They knew back then it was called a grapevine.
Yes.
One
Yeah.
person told one person, then it went,
That's
and
right.
it's like a little fable. By the time
Yeah.
you're done, you were swinging from the chandelier, popping champagne, and I mean, you're too young to drink champagne at that time, but you know how it is. Everybody builds a
Hmm.
story. I was like,
That's right.
people don't realize how good storytellers they are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like some people are amazing storytellers, and you have no idea because you can weave this web. But yeah,
Hmm.
I just sit and look and I'm like, I don't know how this happened. How did we
I
get
don't either.
here? How did
Mm-mm.
we
Well,
get here? Like parents forgot how to parent. Maybe I don't know, but I'm like, if I had done that, my mom would have slapped me and been like, mm because back in those days, we still had groundings. We got grounded. You got hit with like the military belts, and it was okay back then. You know what I'm saying? It
right.
was okay
It
back
was
then. It
okay.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
And
that was
what it is,
parenting back in that day.
that's right. And I'm not condoning that or saying it was right or
Absolutely
wrong, but
not.
what we're saying is that how things have changed and how society has changed so much. And when we were brought up in a way that was different than people are bringing their children up today. Yes, some is
Hmm.
better, some is worse, some is whatever. It's all, you know, subjective into what you believe or what you think or how you see things. But the same applies, the same things still apply when it comes to your life experiences, what you hold
Absolutely.
on to, your traumas, your ego,
Hmm.
your way of seeing, negative or positive, the energy flow, all of that is still relevant.
Absolutely. I tell people the one good thing about growing up in that era is it taught you a boundary on drama, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Because here's the thing, drama loves chaos and chaos loves drama. And why is that? Because chaos is always moving, right? Chaos and drama are always moving. So your brain never has time to slow
That's
itself
right.
down and think about things. And that's why we get caught in the scroll. Our brain is
Yeah.
constantly firing, and by the time you know it, 2 hours is done, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta stay up till 3 in the morning now because I did all this," because we're just so caught in that, and, always there's drama on the news all the time, it's all over social media, and sometimes you just have to take breaks. I'm a big
Yeah.
one from this, like, I can disappear from social media for months on end. I just
Yeah.
it kills my
Yeah.
algorithm. But my mental health is so much better, but it just
Mhm.
kills my algorithm, and I'm like,
Yeah.
so be it, whatever." Uh, you know, but that's the thing. Most people just don't recognize that because we've been so conditioned as a society that this is what it is. And you see this a lot when you travel abroad. Like when you go
Yeah.
to these other countries,
Right.
you're just like, what is happening here? Right? It's nothing like being in the United States. You know what I mean? Like, I've
No.
been to some very peaceful places, and I'm just like, whoa, we are pretty chaotic.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're,
Yeah. I
we're
don't
a
disagree.
chaotic nation. I love the United States, but and I'm not saying anything bad, but there's a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
We play a lot of our lives out on social media, which I am not a big fan of. I don't believe that's a good use of social media. People just don't need to know everything we share with them. And this is especially true in business, and I'm sure you're going to agree with this. You can't announce things until they are done,
Yeah.
signed, sealed, delivered, and
Mhm.
already in, and then you make the announcement because otherwise you have now invited the enemy a seat at your table and things can happen and that derails. And what happens, right? People are like, hey, 6 months ago, you said you were going to launch this and I haven't seen anything about it. And now you have to answer all these questions that you're not prepared for when we
Mhm.
have forgotten how to operate in silence. Silence is a language of its own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Would you
It is.
agree?
It is. Yes, I would agree. And another thing I want to kind of circle back to too is the fact of drama being out there. And when we're storytelling, when you're sharing your marriages, your divorces, your
Mhm.
relationships with your ex-husbands. Like, same with me. I was married twice. I'm still currently married to my second husband. My first husband's passed away, and all of the I could sit and talk and create drama all around that. Or I could make sure that what I choose to share is coming
Right.
from a place of love, and it's coming from a place of forgiveness, because honestly and truly, we all make choices that don't always go the way we plan them to. But drama
Yep.
is caused when we're not through it. When we tell a
Mhm.
story, you and I are sharing a story about something here. We're talking to people so that they can see what's possible, what is what we're capable of when we just uncover the layers of the shitstorm that we live in sometimes. So
Yep.
that we've gone through it. We're not sitting in it. So yes, it's drama as we're sitting in it because it's still spinning, like you
Yep.
said, it's constant chaos around us. But if we can, tune out that noise and listen to what we need to hear and just be quiet with ourselves and really own and look in the mirror at our own selves and decide what we can do to better ourselves instead of pointing the finger at someone else, then that diminishes the drama and that diminishes the chaos, because it's bringing it to a point of purpose. And that's what we've talked about through this whole podcast is, what was your purpose? If you're writing a book, your purpose
Absolutely.
to tell your story and to help other people,
Yep.
not to make the bestseller list, not to make billions or millions of
Right.
dollars. It wasn't about that,
Exactly.
because when it
Nope.
was, it wasn't happening,
No, it was terrible.
right?
Those are
And
some of the darkest days.
that's right. And once you became aligned with what your purpose was and what your trauma has done for you, not to you,
Mhm.
but through you, it
Yep.
changes your perspective.
It does. When you realize that you hold power greater than your trauma does over you,
Yes.
it's a
Yes.
game changer. And you're
It
just like, oh,
is.
okay. Now I'm like, okay, I'm a messenger. I'm a vessel. I can stand in this and talk about these things that happen and
Yes.
not like throwing shade at people. I
That's
know what
right.
happened to me. I know what people did to me. And I give you what I need to give you to, like you
Yes.
said, tell the story. But it still happened to me. And here's what I say: trauma didn't kill me, it delayed me and it stole from
Yep.
me, but it
Yep.
didn't kill me. And so now
Yep.
I'm turning the tables on it. I want stronger conversations about trauma, healthier
Yep.
conversations,
Yep.
not debates, not dramatic, let's cinematic style, over the top.
Mhm.
Honest conversations. You cannot inflict change if you cannot have constructive, honest conversations.
That's
It
right.
doesn't, my trauma is no bigger than your trauma.
Nope.
When it happened to me, it was huge, right?
Yep.
It was huge. It
Yep.
almost destroyed me. Well, it
Mhm.
did. Like I always say, like it's the phoenix coming up out of the ashes. I had to reinvent
Mhm.
myself after being sexually
Yes.
assaulted. It
Yes.
steals everything from you, whether you're a man or a woman. That type of
Mhm.
trauma steals everything from you, and you have to reinvent yourself. But
Yep.
it's also a chance to grow, to learn, and do something different. It's
Yep. It's your
chaos. You're
chance.
always making the
It
same
is your
choice,
chance.
right? Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
it is. It's a
It is your
chance, and
chance,
you
and it
have a
is your
choice,
choice.
right?
That's right.
It's your
That
choice
is
how
so.
you use what happened to you and the words you
Mhm.
use. Words are weapons. You're either going to
Mhm.
use them for good or you're not going to use them for good,
That's
but you'll
right.
answer to everything that you do
Yep.
and say. And so,
Yep.
yeah, I just wish people would just have honest, constructive conversations so we can really see change in the trauma world. Like it needs to become at the forefront again, but discussed the right way. There's no finger
Yes.
pointing. There's no mine is bigger than yours. It
Nope.
hurt me more than it hurt you. My family suffered more. Everybody suffers in trauma.
Every
Everyone suffers.
everyone
The people
suffers in
around
trauma.
suffer.
That is
You
the
suffer.
yes.
The people attached to you suffer. That's
Yes.
another big thing. You have to really. think about what you're doing, especially on social media. If you
Mhm,
carry people with you, if you are a destiny carrier, and
mhm,
most trailblazers are, we
mhm.
carry a lot of people on our backs, having our publishing company, our podcast. There's a lot of moving parts
Yeah.
to all that. And you have to be careful because everything you do is a direct reflection of the company. And like if
Mhm.
you're an
Oh,
entrepreneur,
yeah,
it's your company, right? It's
that's right.
you.
Yep,
You
yep,
are the company. You are
yep.
what it is. I'm trying to get out of this little ray of light
Yes,
here. Maybe I'm moving the
you
wrong way.
are your
Oh,
brand,
there we
and,
go.
that is so
You are your
important to
brand.
say too. You are your brand, and, when I chose this pivot in my career and really wanted to focus on the podcast and real because
Yep.
my goal, my mission, my vision is to help women see what's possible, help women know that anything that they choose to do, they can do with action and intention and help
Absolutely.
and support and love because we've all had things happen. We've all been through things, but together we are stronger. So if we can help women one woman at a time, then that is what I want to do. And from
I think
one
it's great.
post, yes, we've got this connection. And I have made connections with you. And I think in 2 weeks, I have recorded 28 podcasts with women. And I have,
That's
I
so
know,
awesome.
I can't even tell you because it lights me up because I know that someone's going to hear your story and go, oh my gosh, that happened to me. She survived and
Hmm.
look what she's created because she survived and
Absolutely.
she chose to not have that pain and that trauma define her.
Absolutely.
Right?
Here's a tagline for you. You are so much more than what happened to you.
Yes.
You're so
Yes.
much more. Like
So much more.
you literally have to choose which path you're going to take. It's like you have to look at it as you're coming to a fork in the road. You
Yes.
got to choose one way to
Yeah.
go.
Left or right.
And
Whatever you're
so
going to do.
which
Hmm.
way are you going to choose? You have
Yeah.
the choice of I'm gonna go the road I know I've always done, and you're gonna end up right back at the same place. Or I'm gonna
Hmm.
take this road that's a little dark. There's only a little red light. I'm kind of scared to go down there. And you have to overcome this fear. But it's over here where
Yes.
things are gonna start to happen because now you're not just talking about your trauma to shed light on you. You're shedding a light on the whole trauma world, right? And you have stepped into a place to say,
Mhm.
I'm going to be a motivation. Yes, terrible things happen to me. Terrible things happen to me before I was saved, and terrible things happen to me after I was saved, right? So there's just because we're saved doesn't mean bad things don't
Yeah.
happen to us. They still
No.
happen. We live in a very
Yeah.
fallen world. But what happened was God took everything that had happened to me and said, look at how much you can talk about to people because you're strong enough to stand in it and say,
Mhm.
this happened to me. I didn't ask for it. It happened. And now I'm going to turn the tide and I'm going to use it for something useful. It's the underlying story of the Bible,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, listen, the Bible doesn't change, only the storyteller changes, right? And
Yeah.
you have to become a storyteller that is relevant to the time you actually live in.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
do that by standing in your truth, your
Mhm.
story, and you just go. I do people not like me? Absolutely. Have I been burned by people close to me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I
Yeah.
refuse to stay in that place because I will not go back to victim mentality.
Yeah.
I'm a victim when it happened to me, and then I made a choice after that. Am I
Yeah.
going to be in victim mode or am I going to be in survivor mode? And really just get the ball rolling. You got to speak to the mountain and make it move, right?
Yeah.
And you know what
Yeah.
God told me at one point, Vicki? He said, you are the mountain. And I was like, woo, that's not what I wanted to hear, but how do I get myself to move, right? Like, it's just like, pew, throw some more water on your face. I always say I
Yeah.
had a good complexion because it was always full of like the water coming down, being thrown in my face. But yeah, it's all about
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
You
You're
have to
right.
make the choice for you.
Mhm.
Learn
Yeah.
boundaries. Boundaries are for
Yeah.
you, not to keep the other people out. And no
That's
is the
right.
most
Yeah.
complete sentence in the dictionary. And I always tell people,
Yes.
if they keep asking, I'm
Yes.
like, is it the N or the O that you don't understand? Because the answer is still
Yeah.
no. It's my
Yeah.
anointed no. I'm
Yep.
not doing it. If it doesn't go to my purpose, I'm not doing
Mhm.
it. I'm just not going to do it.
And
And then
that's a hard
sometimes the
thing.
human side,
That's hard.
yeah,
That's hard, girl,
because
to
the
say no
human side,
sometimes because we get that, "Oh, but what if?" and, "Oh, I know." No, it keeps bringing us back. It brings us back to our purpose, and
exactly.
I love that.
You know why you don't want to be a what if statement? Why your life should
Why?
not be a what if statement? Because a what if statement also has a then. Why don't you want to be the then? Why do you want to be the what if? Why don't you be the then? Yep, this happened, then I did this. This happened, then I did.
Yes,
What if it happened? Well, you're not going to know what had happened. The longer you sit here, the less time you have to go out and do the things. It's actually going to move you to the next level. So, it's like we're on a
that's
hamster
for sure.
wheel, right? And we don't take a break to go get a drink. We're just on this hamster wheel. We're trying to be
Yeah.
what we think everyone thinks we should be, or we want to be something to everybody. And, I want to tell you, I want to tell you this
Girl,
epiphany I
you gotta
had
come back
because
again and again and again
I'm
and
telling you,
again on this
I'm gonna leave,
podcast, because I tell you,
I'm
girl,
gonna leave
we
you
have
on this
covered
one.
so much. I love
I'm gonna leave
this.
you on this one. So,
Okay.
you know, people pleasers, right? People pleasing is a trauma
Yep.
response. Let's just throw that out there first, right? Because we're talking about trauma. But
Okay.
I
Yeah.
always wanted the biggest question I hated people ask, what is your niche? What is your niche? And I'm like, I hate that word because I want to help everybody. And so I'd be like, I want to help everybody. I want to help everybody, right? And then it leads to more people pleasing and so on. And then the epiphany came, right? It's like this picture of an ocean. Like, what do you see? I see water. What do you see? I see water. And what about the water? Well, it's endless. It's endless water when you're looking at an ocean, right? All you see is water. It's
Yeah.
just, you might have
Yeah.
some islands and stuff on the side, but generally all you're seeing is all of this water. And so then it was laid on my heart, like, this is you trying to help everybody. It's endless, right? There is no end. There is no new beginning. But over here in that little section, those are your fish. You are this water trying to help all of these fish and all of this ocean, and you're killing yourself. Your fish are still over there waiting for you to get to that part of the ocean
Right.
so you can help them,
Mhm.
because these fish are meant for other people. And it really was a perspective shift for me. It's like, I can't help everybody,
Mhm.
but I can help my
Mm-mm.
fish that I'm supposed to help. And those are the ones that I'm supposed to help. And these other fish, I trust that their people will come help these fish. And it
Yeah.
really made me really like, yeah, I can see where that was not a good answer, right? And so I always chuckle when I see a picture of an ocean. I'm always like, look at all them fish in that ocean. Thankfully, they're not all my fish. And I'm allergic to seafood, so that was even more of a sense of humor. It was, so I was like, now that's sarcasm at its best.
Oh,
But
that's
that's the
funny.
way you have to think of it when you're
Mhm.
thinking of your purpose.
Mhm.
You cannot help
Yeah.
everybody. We said it earlier. You're
No.
not meant for everybody. You're not meant to help everybody.
Nope.
You're meant
Nope.
to find
And
your
that's
lane
okay.
and go in your, and it's
Mhm.
okay. And you can run perpendicular. I'm involved
Yeah.
with lots of people that talk about trauma, and we all discuss it differently, but we're staying true to
Yeah.
what we were told to say and how we conduct it. And
And
that's
in
what
your
you have to
knowledge.
do, because in the end,
Yeah.
no one can do you better than you can do you.
That's right.
No one knows you
Love
better
that.
than you know yourself, except for God.
Yes.
God knows you better than you ever know
Yeah.
yourself. No, and
Yeah.
you cannot wear all these masks, because I used to be the queen of,
Yeah.
oh, this is what you want
Yeah.
to see. This is what I'm going to give you. This is what you want to see. This is what I'm going to give you. And now I'm like, that's exhausting. And I'm always tired. I mean, I have chronic fatigue, but I'm still always tired. And, it was just
Yeah.
a perspective. Like, either you're going to help the people you're supposed to
And
help,
you're right.
or
Yep.
yeah, I don't want to get to the gates of heaven and be
Yep.
like, well, let's pull back this cloud and these are your people still over here waiting. and
Yeah.
and guess what? You're
Yep.
not there to
Yep.
help them anymore. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So that it,
Yeah.
it was just, it was simple for me. It was like, I have to have a shift in my mind. It's all that trauma bondage
Yes.
we have up there.
Mhm.
But girl, we could
Yeah.
talk forever, but
I know. We could so talk forever, but listen, I want you back again, and I'm sure all the listeners are going to want you back again because you have put things into such a different perspective for people to listen to. And, all of Crissie's information is going to be in the show notes. Everything about her that we can send to you so you can get in touch with Crissie. Love us or
Yes.
not, that's okay. Because we
It's
are
okay.
going to find our people just as our listeners are going to find their people. And I hope that that is us,
Absolutely.
because I really do. Like you said, I can't help every woman in the world, but what I
Yeah.
had said before, I stand by one woman at a time. And that's what
Yep.
that's my vision. My mission is to do that. And, just by having these conversations, sometimes they're not easy. Sometimes they bring up things, and maybe for our listeners too. But if that did bring something up for you, please reach out, because we are here to help and support anybody that we
Absolutely.
can help. And, um, yeah, we've got so much more to discuss, Crissie and I tell you. So
Yes.
please listen to us
Listen,
again.
Vicki,
We will be
whatever.
she'll be back as a guest another time, because I love this girl. She's awesome.
Don't stop what you're doing because you're giving a platform for people to use their voices. And that's a
Yes.
big thing. That's all about
Yeah.
being intentional and being true is you are the one that is given the task to let people have their voices. And that is a
Yes.
huge, huge deal. And
Yeah.
hey, we can live on the edge next time, Vicky. We can take some audience questions. They can submit some
Yes, we
questions
can.
and we
That's a
can talk about
great
the question.
idea. We'll do
Girl,
it live next
we'd be
time.
walking on the edge of the water, picking up
Okay, we'll do
seashells.
it. Promise. Yes,
All right. It's
absolutely.
been
Well,
great.
thank
Thank
you,
you again for
Crissie.
having me.
Thank you to everyone listening. And till the next time, you guys have a beautiful day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. Remember, your story matters, your voice matters, and your power is limitless. If you love today's conversation, subscribe, share it with the women in your life, and leave a review to help more women discover their unstoppable selves. I'm Vicki McDougall, and I'll see you in the next episode, because your journey to unstoppable starts now.